Radio IMWS.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to another edition of Election Special on Radio IMWS. I'm Brother Muhammad, and as we've been telling you, in just a few weeks, voters will be heading off to their polling stations, not just to vote in a government, an MP, but you'll also be voting for a local council, for local councillors as well. So this week we've changed the program slightly. Instead of a candidate, we are going to focus this week on the role of a councillor and the council. And a little later on, we might even be having a look at the candidate standing in your ward. Sorry. But first, let me officially welcome my co-host Ayub. Bismillah. Ayub, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. It's really nice to be back again on Election Special.
Yep, it is. We've only got 3 shows after this left.
Not many days left, is it? Before the D-Day.
Oh, not much left at all. Like I say, 3 more shows and then we're there. I'll let you point out that we are going to be just as neutral as we are always.
Oh, absolutely. And slightly different show tonight, like you've mentioned, Mohammed. Instead of the quizzing and debating with the prospective candidates for the parliament, we're actually looking at how the council works and what sort of councillors we are going to look out for in the forthcoming district elections.
Yep, absolutely.
So really, in terms of neutrality, as always, we're not going to be favouring any particular party or any particular candidate. However, we will try and scrutinise really carefully how councillors work, and what the expectations are, and how and who they are accountable to.
Yep, absolutely. So this is your opportunity to find out more about your local council, your local councillors as well, inshallah. Okay, now then, joining us in the studio this week is a modern-day rarity, a politician not up for election but willing to engage with the public. It gives me great pleasure genuinely, to welcome Batley West Council and Kirkless Cabinet member as well, Councillor Shabbir Pandor. Shabir, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
You are a rarity, but we were just mentioning just off air there. Do you ever get nervous? I mean, this is slightly off topic, but do you ever get nervous just before on the run up to an election?
If it was my own election, I would get an adrenaline rush. And having a certain amount of nerves is always good. It keeps you on your toes. But it's an opportunity to put yourself forward once again after 4 years to the general public, the voters, who I'm ultimately accountable to. And as long as you've done your job reasonably well and you've been honest to yourself and to your constituents, I don't think there's much to worry about. But I would say that because my majority keeps on increasing each time I stand.
Yes. Well, you know what, for the few people possibly out there, we have been actually getting listeners far and wide. So, Shabir, just tell us a little bit about how long you've been involved in politics.
I became a councillor in 2002, but in terms of local politics, I've been involved way before that, probably pre-City Challenge days.
Right.
I got married, moved to Batley, went to an AGM in our local masjid, and became the secretary. A year after that, I became the secretary of IMWS. Stayed there a few years. And then
that's politics enough, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah,
a masjid and a community organisation.
Absolutely. So you get a good grounding. You get a good grounding about people and people's behaviour and psyche. And then very shortly after that, I became the chairman of Sutil Masjid, and that was a very good, sharp learning experience. And we developed a completely brand new purpose-built masjid in Sutil, and just before we managed to get all the funds and start the construction work, about a year before I got elected. So it was the right time that I stood down as chairman of the masjid and took up the challenge to fight for Batley West, which then was a Lib Dem stronghold. All 3 seats went to the Lib Dems. And it was through sheer hard work and dedication and commitment that we are where we are today.
Okay. Okay, listeners out there, you can, as always, participate. If you've got a question, then feel free to call. Give us a call on 01924505629, or you can text or WhatsApp us on 07460809218. Remember, we do want you to participate. So this is your opportunity to get Councillor Pandor on the back foot if you can. But he's not up for election, so go easy on him, not like the other candidates. But do send us in.
Feel free, I'm here.
Oh, he's thrown the gauntlet. He's thrown the gauntlet.
I'm here to answer
right,
honestly and as openly as I can.
But we are really just looking at district councils,
Yeah,
sure.
and particularly the roles of councillors, because a lot of the voters won't have a lot of idea about how councils work, what councillors do, what the responsibilities are, and what help they can actually get from the councillors. So first of all, I think Councillor Shabbir, thank you for coming and joining us on Radio IMWS. A special welcome to you. And we know you're a really hard-working councillor. You've been in the council now for 13, 14 years.
Mm-hmm.
That shows a lot. Great credit to yourself. But having said that, you've been in sort of local politics for a long time. In terms of the council, what responsibilities have you had over the last 14 years or so? What sort of roles have you particularly played? Before we actually go into sort of looking at the different roles of councillors, just tell us a little bit about your own experience and expertise at the same time, please.
Yeah. Well, the biggest role which your listeners will be able to recognise is the role of representation of local constituents and battle in general in the council, casework and daily problems. But once you actually start getting more and more into it, the kind of problems people bring to you range from anything to mobile phone companies, and people have come to me regarding their phone bills that they thought they were being charged wrongly, to individual issues, neighbour disputes, and many of them aren't really anything to do with the council. A lot of them are. But as a local councillor, they expect you to be able to be in a position to advise them. So not necessarily solve the problems, and people don't understand. But because you're a councillor, you've got some kind of a standing in the community that you have to actually fulfil, and you actually play a role which is quite pivotal in actually making sure that people are signposted to the right places. In terms of the positions I've had quite a few positions actually. We used to have housing management committees. So as soon as I was elected, I became the chairman of the Batley and Spen Housing Management Committee. That was abolished, and very shortly afterwards I became the chair of the area committee, Batley area committee, and we had a restructure, and the area committee became Batley and Spen area committee, which included Birstall and Birkenshaw, Batley East and Batley West. I was also the chair of Overview and Scrutiny Committee for resources. I was also the chair of the Area Committee Advisory Committee, which is actually a committee across the council. And there's been some other various other positions, but they're the key positions. In 2008, we shared a coalition in running the council with the Lib Dems. And I was one of the 5 cabinet members from the Labour group, and my portfolio initially was community safety and cohesion and the community side of the council. Very shortly afterwards, I became the cabinet portfolio holder for corporate resources, and just last year after the mayor's election, I became cabinet member for education, schools and children, focusing primarily on schools. So that's just a broad.
MashaAllah, huh? That's
it's
really,
that's off the top of my head. I'm sure I've done more than that. But,
I mean, being a cabinet member, what additional responsibilities does that place on your shoulders?
As a cabinet member, you're ultimately accountable to the public and to the council chamber in terms of my portfolio, which is schools. Now, schools, a lot of people would argue that, Shabir, you're the cabinet member for schools, So you should be in a position to do anything you want with schools. But it's not as straightforward as that, because since a number of years, and more recently, schools have actually become more controlled centrally. Michael Gove brought in a whole host of legislation, and he opened up the floor to schools to become independent schools, without any evidence of need or demand or school provision. A group of people could get together and open a school in their own locality. We've got a strategic responsibility in terms of making sure that the schools perform within the national curriculum, and we've got a responsibility to make sure that kids from 0 to 16, 17, 18 come out and either are employed or are in training or in further education, or got some kind of apprenticeship. So that covers a whole sort of spectrum of responsibilities in terms of what I'm responsible for. So that's basically in a nutshell.
Do you also have a daytime job, actually?
No, I don't have a daytime job. What I did was a few years ago, I gave my job up. But that's not to say that I still don't have work outside the council,
okay.
Because as a councillor, you get an allowance, which we can come on to later on, and being a cabinet member, you get an extra responsibility allowance as well, which is about a same. And in total, it's about £24,000. But that's an allowance, because from there you've got to basically run your office, which is basically, I run mine from my home. All the expenses, travel expenses within the council, that comes out from there, mobile phones, whatever. So
it's a job in itself, isn't it?
It's a job in itself, but compared to what I could do if I wasn't a councillor, my background is housing. I'm a chartered housing professional, and the colleagues I used to work with are now directors and chief execs of housing association or regeneration companies. And obviously, if you're a small family, they want to go to university. If they go to university and they go out of the area, then just in rental accommodation, it costs. So what I do is, being a cabinet member and councillor, that's my prime objective, and that's my prime reason for being here. But at the same time, I do bits and bats of work on a consultancy basis, which just brings that little extra income, so I can make a living and sustain my family.
And is that the same for all councillors, or is it particularly so for cabinet members? How you juggle your sort of work-life balance with sort of being a councillor and a cabinet member?
Yeah, a lot of the councillors who aren't cabinet members do have a real job in the real world. Quite a few of them don't. They might have retired or took an redundancy, or they might have something else in terms of casual work. Cabinet member, it varies. Depending on what year or what time of a particular period you're looking at. But generally speaking, it's a mixture. In the past, I've known cabinet members where over half the cabinet or the administration also had other paid jobs. For example, one prime example, Sir John Harman, who was the leader of the council for many years, excellent councillor, excellent leader. He's now Sir John Harman. He was a lecturer, but he used to do that not full time, but he used to do that part time. So it is possible, but it's only possible through how committed and how dedicated you are. Because being a councillor, irrespective of you work full-time, part-time, or you don't work at all, it is a 24/7 job. Because people can ring me in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, at night, on a weekend, on a Sunday, and I can only talk about myself. I do take them calls. If I don't answer them, I make sure that before I go to bed that night, at a reasonable time, I do return the calls. Because the last thing I want is someone to say that I've been ringing you and I can't get hold of you.
Yes, and you can give Councillor Pandor a call on 01924 505 629 on this Friday evening, and you can even send a text or a WhatsApp on 07460809218. Now then, Shabir, one of the things, what you've described there is a very, very difficult task. First of all, what is the allowance for a run-of-the-mill councillor?
It's about 12,500.
12 and a half.
Yeah.
Okay, and from that 12 and a half, as you've explained there, they have to have all their mobile phones, everything else is in
Yeah, so the travelling we do within the constituency, so,
Yeah.
or within Kirkless actually, right?
Yeah.
That all comes out from there.
Yeah.
So going back and forth to Huddersfield, you might have a meeting in Dewsbury, Batley, Hickman White, Huddersfield, outside the town hall.
Yeah.
Then you can't claim that mileage.
Right.
Also, we have mobile phones.
Yeah.
All that is used for the council purposes, and again, that all comes out from that allowance.
From that allowance, from that 12,500. Then obviously you go to the cabinet. If you're in the cabinet, it goes more. But what's the incentive then? Because it's a terribly difficult job, constantly being criticised for £12,500.
Well, the incentive for me, I can't speak for anybody else, but a lot of my friends have got their own businesses. They're self-employed. And they've said to me that the amount of time I spend working as a councillor and working in the community, they said you would have been a millionaire. But that doesn't motivate me. It's never motivated me, and it's not something that drives me. Even before I became a councillor, I was a secretary of this particular organisation. You will remember that the transition from Taylor Street to Al Hikma Centre. I was a secretary. Aziz was a chair, I believe, and Ibrahim was the vice chair. And I was in the midst of that. And then developing the new masjid in Sotil. My background is program management and developing multi-discipline complex projects. And again, I did that at Sotil, but I did that because I wanted to, and I did that because I was committed, and I did that to make sure that the community benefited. Nobody paid me. I didn't expect anybody to say well done. It's just something that you believe in, and if you believe in something and if you enjoy something, then you'll do it.
Okay.
Like my son is a very quick example. My son is a really keen supporter of Liverpool Football Club, and he follows all their matches and whatever. And I say to him, "Where do you get time?" Because he's also studying. He just finished his studies, but he enjoys that. That's his hobby. You can say this is my hobby.
Well, with Liverpool, it's quite easy. They get knocked out of enough things, so you have plenty of time left over.
I don't know who's good or bad, Liverpool or Man U, or
That's a very political answer, that. But Shabir, okay, now how does the council work? Because obviously people are aware that you elect councillors. Those councillors then represent you within a council, and local decisions are made. But how does the council itself operate? If you wanted to, for example, bring in a motion, what would you do?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, the way the council works is every 4 years, a councillor is up for election. And we have council elections every 4 years. So every year, and the fourth year is a fallow year. So you elect a third, and then year 4 is a fallow year, because in each ward you've got 3 councillors.
So the standing councillors carry on after 4 years unless they want to step down? Do they automatically carry on?
No. In our group, when you are a councillor and you are going to come up for re-election, you have to go through an internal interview process.
Right. Okay.
Who does that?
And that is done by the local campaign forum, which is basically a committee of Labour Party execs, retired councillors, very experienced people who have been in the party for a long time, very committed individuals, and the LCF arrange for a sitting councillor or any potential new councillors to go on the short list, right, or the long list. Now, the way it works is, if somebody was being interviewed in Kirkless, there would be 2 Labour Party members, senior Labour Party members, from outside the authority.
Right, okay.
And there'd be 1 person from inside the authority.
Yeah.
So that way it keeps it completely impartial and above board, and trying to make it transparent as possible. So they have to go through a standard interview, and the interviews are getting tougher and tougher each year, because we want a high calibre of candidate coming forward, but not just high calibre. We want people who are committed, who are genuinely passionate and believe in communities and want to do well for their communities. Right. So that process.
How long has this process been in place?
This process has been in place for some time, because when I started in 2002, I was interviewed in 2001. Obviously, I got through the interview. But as time goes on, the processes, you review them and they get better.
So to your knowledge, I mean, so far, has anybody actually failed this interview?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
An existing councillor?
I don't want to comment too much on this, but I'll only say that there was a fellow councillor, and again, this is common knowledge. It was in the papers. He didn't get through his interview process, but on appeal, he did get back on the shortlist.
Right. Okay. Now then, I've got a question that's come in, Councillor. Here we go. How would Councillor Pandor encourage more women from Asian backgrounds to get involved in local politics, including becoming a councillor? It's seen as a predominantly male profession, so how can we overcome this stigma?
Very, very, very good question, and it's a very, very important area to focus on, and not just about women. Although the Labour Party has set very clear policies, it's also about representation from different backgrounds, representation, especially at parliamentary levels, from different working class backgrounds, and a whole range of different classes of people. In terms of locally, we have a policy in place whereby in each ward we have a target to get at least one female councillor.
That's the Labour Party you're talking about now.
Yeah, this is Labour Party. This is Labour Party. That's right. Yeah. Very recently, you probably know that my fellow councillor Peter O'Neill, he stood down. So when he stood down, the Labour Party regionally decided that it will be a women-only shortlist. So that means that we promote women through being positively encouraging to ensure that shortlists are only for women primarily. So basically, in my ward, there's Gwen, who's a female. There's Peter, who's a male, who'll be replaced by a female. It's his daughter, who's going to stand, Marielle, and there'll be myself. So there'll be.
So just going back, whose decision was it to make it an all-female shortlist for district councils?
Yeah. Since Ed Miliband was elected as the Labour leader, he made a commitment, and it's now party policy, that in Parliament we will have at least 50% women Labour MPs. And that's why you've seen a whole swathe of constituencies up and down the country where the Labour Party National Executive has decided that they become women-only shortlist. And it's happening in all communities. It doesn't happen in any particular community because there's a lot of myth that goes on, and we need to actually bust that myth. And that is party policy, and we have to accept it. In terms of locally, our council isn't as bad as other councils within this area. And like I said, I think in terms of the Labour group, we are pretty well represented. We haven't got anybody at the moment who belongs to Afro-Caribbean background. And as you know, in Huddersfield, you've got a massive Afro-Caribbean background. So, inshallah, hopefully in the Ashbrow ward, the lady called Amanda, who's standing, because Councillor Cathy Harris is stepping down, and Amanda is from a Afro-Caribbean background, so we'll probably see the first Afro-Caribbean background woman councillor being elected in Kirkless. So from a Kirkless point of view, the balance is reasonable. In Batley, the balance is quite reasonable as well, because we'll have 3 women councillors and we'll have 3 men councillors.
Yeah, I just want to come back to this question because the question is quite specific. Encourage more women from Asian backgrounds. Now, one of the things I should mention, yes, we've got there's Amanda Stubley, who's up for re-election this year. Gwen is still who's there. Marielle, who's standing. If you look across Batley and Dewsbury, a very heavy South Asian communities. There is Nosheen Dad, who's standing in Dewsbury against Salim Patel. But from 5 wards, she's the only South Asian woman who's standing for an election, and probably in the most difficult seat.
I think any seat, regardless of it being safe or not, it should be taken very seriously. I understand that some seats might be easier to fight than others, but as long as you've got a good team around you and the commitment is there, I don't see any reason why that seat is not winnable. Going back to the question about what does the Labour Party do to actually encourage more women to participate and become councillors.
South Asian.
South Asian,
There's been an update on that one. He's the listener is also asking for what about Muslim background? So South Asian Muslim basically.
Well, first and foremost, you have to become a party member. Yeah, and to become a party member is very straightforward. You just go on the Labour Party website. Everything's done online, and as soon as you click the button, you get a text message that you're a party member. As soon as you're a party member, all your details go into the National Labour Party database, and that information comes back to us in Batley and Spen. That information is then filtered at local level. So if a particular person is a resident in Batley, we've got 2 wards in Batley, Batley East and Batley West, then automatically the secretary of that branch will invite her to attend meetings. So it's very important to actually attend meetings. There's various activities that take place. It's important to actually get involved politically because you're joining a political party. So you have to be political. If you're not political, not to worry. There's plenty of opportunities for you to actually develop your political skills. and it's basically like anything else. The more committed you are, the more you will get out of it. But the first thing is to become members. And unfortunately, there aren't that many Asian females in Batley and Spen that are members, and I encourage more female members to become members. Females to become members. I'll give you one very quick example. I've got a son and 2 daughters. And my daughters, both of them, if they want to do something, I will encourage them right from the word go and give them full support and full encouragement, because I'm a firm believer. If you want to do anything, you try your best and you get committed. And from my own experience, I've seen it with my own eyes. The fruits will bear on that on them efforts.
Okay, I was thinking of going into a break, but I think the questions start flying in. So,
okay,
we've got a few questions that have piled up. First question: why did you decide to join the Labour Party? What is the appeal of the party? First of all, when did you join? Because I know you stood at the council in 2002.
Yeah, I joined in the mid-90s.
Right.
I can't remember exact year.
Right. Okay. So why?
Yeah.
What was
the reason why I joined the Labour Party is because, first and foremost, I come from a very, you might not know, but you know, I come from a family that is very, very politically minded and very, very, they're very argumentative. We could argue in an empty room. Anyway, so we were always nurtured in that way from a very, very young age. My father was also involved with IMWS many years ago. He was the assistant joint secretary with Muhammad bin Dorat many years ago in the early 60s. In terms of why the Labour Party, the answer is very, very simple. When I started to work, I started my first job in the council. And as I worked in the council, I realised that the Thatcher government then was very brutal towards the north and very brutal towards working class people. It was very, very brutal in terms of the way it was deploying its policies, the sheer inequalities, unfairness, discrimination against different communities was very evident. And I saw it firsthand in terms of, my background, like I said, was housing, and the way Margaret Thatcher abolished council housing and tried to privatise council housing. And I'm a firm believer, not just as a human being, but as a Muslim, that the state has a role. The state has a role, and you can't leave things to the private devices of corporate firms. And that was one of the main drivers why I became a member of the Labour Party.
Right.
And I'm glad I did, because now I see Cameron, who's following the footsteps of Thatcher. He makes Thatcher look like a little novice compared to what he's done in the last 5 years. Waiting lists going up, GP appointments going up, our NHS being disseminated, £3 billion wasted in a pointless reorganisation. The list goes on, bedroom tax, welfare cuts.
We're not really here to actually debate which is the best party tonight.
We could
get a bit sidetracked.
I'm just answering the question why I joined the Labour Party.
Absolutely.
Because of what was out there. Okay, another question which I've got here is joining a party and the selection process similar for all other parties?
I can't talk about the other parties because I don't know their processes, but I suspect the Tory party, the Conservatives have a very similar process in terms of how they select their candidates. For both the local elections and the parliamentary elections, the threshold is quite high. For the other parties, the Lib Dems and Greens and UKIP, I can't make any comment. But looking at the recent UKIP candidates, and suddenly when things come out of the closet, the interview process doesn't seem that much of a scrutiny type process to actually get the best candidate for the role.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, Shabir, I want to ask you, you're also a member of the Cooperative Party.
Yes, I am, yes.
Why?
I am a member of the Coop Party because Coop Party is a sister party to the Labour Party. I just believe in cooperation, producing locally, and again, the Coop Party's ethical values are very aligned to my own values. We don't believe in exploiting people for profits. We believe in profit sharing. That's why I joined the Coop Party, and I'm on the regional board of the Coop Party as well.
Yes.
Yeah, I was a little bit bemused about that because Marielle O'Neill, who's standing in the Batley West ward, she's described as Labour and Cooperative Party.
Yeah. So she's basically
the only one, isn't she?
Yeah. She's. What you can do is, if you're a Coop Party member, you can not just only stand for the Labour Party, but you can stand for the Labour and Coop Party.
Yeah.
Which many candidates do.
So is that a separate party or?
No. The Coop Party is to be a Coop Party member. You have to be a party of the Labour Party. If you are a Coop Party member, then you can't stand against a Labour councillor or a candidate for parliamentary or local elections, because if you do that, then you can't be a member of the Coop Party.
Does many good things happen through the Coop Party locally, or is it quite thin?
No, I think, for example, localism. We all talk about it. We all heard about it. Our government pre-2010 were developing localism through the Combined Authority. The Tory Party were talking about it around localism. Cameron gave a big spiel about it before he came into power, right? Yeah, and very shortly afterwards, things just died down. The only reason why it's got resurrected again was because of the referendum in Scotland. And suddenly, and coincidentally, just before the election, you had all these announcements being made about, we'll devolve power at regions, and we'll give regions more power, and we'll give them more money, and we'll develop a link between Manchester and Leeds, and we'll spend X billion pounds. But again, these are also like political hypes. When the money is on the table, and when the details on the table, then I'll believe it. These things are talked about, and that's one of the values of cooperative movement, to actually develop structures and decision-making structures that have a local influence and local input into it.
Okay. You are listening to Radio IMWS, broadcasting live from the Al Hikmah Centre in Batley, West Yorkshire. This is the election special. We're looking at local elections this week, and in the studio we are joined by Councillor Shabbir Pandor, the Councillor for Batley West and also Kirkless Cabinet member. If you want to give us a call, the number is 01924 505 629. If you want to send it a text or WhatsApp, it's on 07460809218. Now, Shabbir, one of the things that we've heard a lot from all the candidates is about regeneration within the local towns. We've heard about local policies, the library. Last week we were hearing about the Wycliffe Sports Centre, the various things that are happening. Where's the line between what is the responsibility of an MP and what is the responsibility of a council?
An MP is somebody who represents the local CLP at national level. They have the power within the party structure to make legislation. They also have the power and the authority to discuss and implement international issues. At local level, what we do is we actually provide local services. You could argue that to some degree schools, although our influence and our power over schools is very limited, highways, transportation, roads, street cleaning, environmental services, libraries, museum, arts galleries, parks, there's around, and I was amazed at this, there's around 1,300 statutory duties a council fulfills.
Right.
I can't tell them off the top of my head, but once you look at that actual whole host of services a council has to provide, you'd be amazed. And like I said, there's 1,300 statutory services. So these are services we have to provide by law to local communities. But it's an interesting question because at the moment our budget is around £350 million, or it was. We've cut from that budget £80 million. If the Tories get back in, and this is not political, this is a fact, they are going to cut another £80 million. So what that would mean is half of our budget would disappear. Most of that budget is spent on adult social care. The remainder is then spent on education and children and safeguarding. So when you actually cut the bits out that we have to do, which is a priority, i.e. kids and elderly people, the amount of money you have left is very, very minimal. That means that we won't be able to spend as much on roads, or should I say we'll spend hardly anything. We won't be able to spend anything on libraries. We won't be able to spend anything on museums. We won't be able to spend anything on sports centres, parks, environmental pollution, noise nuisance. The whole thing goes on.
Right.
And this is quite a critical
How
situation.
much can an MP, how much difference can an MP actually make on local? I mean, you're talking about what's getting passed in Parliament, about the budget, I guess, how much money is going to come up to the local government from central government funding and those type of things. That's fair enough. But on a local level, for example, saving Batley Library, can an MP actually save Batley Library?
I'll tell you how I see having a Labour government. And the important fact is the Labour government. And again, this is not a political point, this is fact. If we get a Labour government in power, that would mean that the redistribution of funding will change. At the moment, Labour, heartlands in the north, urban areas, where you've got major deprivation, big social problems, big socio-economic issues, the funding formula, the way it's been fiddled, takes away all the needs element. So money is given to a local authority area based on, if you've got so many people, you'll get that. So it's based on per person. But you can't compare somewhere like our area to a heartland in Cheshire, which is probably a Tory area, Tory Shire. If we had to make the same kind of cuts that a lot of Tory control local authorities are making, would be actually £5 million in surplus. So the way I want to answer your question is, right, if we get a Labour government, if we get Labour MPs in Jubilee and Batley, what would happen is we would actually have a direct influence over how that money is allocated. The funding formula would be rebalanced, and the funding that is actually being diverted into other areas would come into Kirkless. It would make my job easier. It would make my constituents happier, and it would create a better Kirkless and a better environment for everybody else. So that's why it's really, really important, right? Yeah, that we actually get a government that actually cares for working class people. Okay,
I've got some messages I want to get through before I might actually come back on that point. But okay, salam to all, and good to hear Councillor Pandor on the radio. My question is, not all our councillors seem to put in the same dedication and commitment in their job as councillor. I believe they're referring to you, Shabir. As putting the commitment in. Some even enjoy long holidays abroad. Question 1, do they get paid leave? Question 2, where's the accountability to ensure we as ratepayers get value for money?
I really believe that all our councillors, irrespective of whichever party they come from, are genuinely very, very committed. Because you've got to understand that they have families, they have real lives, they have commitments, and you've also got to understand that if you come from an Indian subcontinent, we also have responsibilities back home. You understand? And it's within that context we have to actually understand the role of the councillor, because I don't think there's enough acknowledgement that is given out there in the media, and it's probably a national issue as well, that in terms of diversity, the world is a very small place, and the councillors I know across all parties, across all communities, across the whole country, the kind of diversity and value they bring in terms of what they do in their home country, or in your Pakistan or Bangladesh or wherever they come from, that needs to be taken within the whole arena of public service. But in terms of
so do they get paid leave when they go away abroad for holidays?
I mean, we spoke earlier about the 12.5. I mean, basically, is that allowance an allowance that is still given regardless of whether they're in the country or not?
It's an allowance. It's not salary. And that is a given. Okay, where's the accountability? That's the second part of it, because basically, as you mentioned, that's an allowance. So they do get, so councillors will get that allowance regardless of whether they're in the country or out of the country for 6 months. The second part of the question is, where's the, question 2, where's the accountability to ensure we as ratepayers get value for money?
The accountability lies at the ballot box, ultimately. Because at the end of the day, nobody employs me. The people that employ me are the people in my constituency. There's 14,000 of them. Out of the 14,000 people that vote across all parties, there's about 50-60% turnout, maybe less, maybe more, depending on which ward you look at. So ultimately, the power is in the hands of the people.
Okay. But surely, I think, each particular party will have some protocols about what councillors can do and what they can't do, how long they can go on holidays and how long they can't go on for holidays. Okay, 2 weeks, fine. We all have 2 weeks holidays here and there. But if they're going off for 4 weeks, 5 weeks and more, then, there must be some protocol somewhere, not just in the Labour Party, but all across the parties.
I mean, is there anything within the council that says that a councillor must attend a minimum number of meetings?
In the council's constitution, what it says is that if you miss a council meeting, or if you don't attend a council meeting for more than 6 months, then you automatically forfeit your right to hold office. So, and again, this is in the council constitution, so it's factual. So basically, as long as they attend the meetings, it's not an issue.
One meeting in 6 months?
Yep.
Don't you think that should be maybe a little bit more frequent?
That's the
Can the public make a change on there? Can the public ask for councillors? Because as I mentioned, we all understand that, look, there's responsibilities and there's exceptional circumstances as well. We all get that work. But let's face it, I mean, I'm working, my job means that if I take 6 weeks off, I probably will not be walking back into a job. And I know you're saying it's an allowance. I know you're saying it's an allowance, but at the end of the day, I've taken a responsibility to fulfill certain roles and responsibilities.
I'm not going to get drawn into this debate, right? But one thing I will say, and I'm deliberately not going to get drawn into this, right? But one thing I will say, is it fair for large multinationals to pay their board of directors for 1 day a week 100, 200, 300,000 pounds? That's the context we have to look at the whole thing in. Who aren't accountable to anybody. Is it fair for somebody to go on a board? A Quango.
But two wrongs don't make a right.
No. And it's a different field, a different ballgame.
I could say the same thing about teachers. Right? They could quote exactly what you've quoted and say, all right, we could do with that as well. But it doesn't work like that.
But what I'm saying is, is this particular line of
as a councillor,
I'm not going to get drawn into it.
Okay. Do you?
I think we're speaking broadly speaking. We're not really directing any fingers at anybody. But it's council protocols and policies we're looking at. Because at the end of the day, come May the 7th, people will be wanting to vote for a candidate.
I've told you what the council constitution is. If a councillor misses meetings within a 6 month period,
Yep.
And he don't attend any meetings, then automatically he will forfeit his seat.
Yeah, I know I've asked this question just very quickly though. Can the public, if the public wanted, I mean, like you say, at the end of the day, it's up to the public. If the public vote the same, the councillor, if the public are not happy with the councillor, it's up to them to vote him out. It's as simple as that.
Or her.
That's the whole, or her, sorry,
him or her,
my apologies.
Yeah.
I'm going to be accused of being sexist very soon. But yes, him or her. But you do have a large percentage of people who didn't vote for that particular individual, for example, of that him or her, anywhere within Kirkless or further afield, but within Kirkless, that person feels aggrieved. Their councillor is not available when they need. Can they? Can the public bring to the council and say, look, hold on a second, one meeting in 6 months, that's a bit that's not enough. We want a bit more from our councillors. Can the public come to the council and actually deliver that? Ask for
the public can do whatever it wants as long as it's within the law.
Yeah,
they can do what they want. As a councillor, I get petitions left, right, and centre for all sorts of things. So
But do you think it's something that particular parties should actually pick up with their own sort of and make their own policies and procedures?
I think the party is picking up on this, and this is the point I mentioned right at the beginning, that as time progresses and as democracy is opened up, if that's the right word, through social media, through the internet, through WhatsApp, and through mobile technology, this whole question around democratic value for money will certainly play a part.
The key was,
but the point I'm trying to make is, that it's very easy to look at one side of the argument and one side of the story, because I know. And again, right, this goes across all parties, right? Labour, Lib Dems, Greens, or Independents, because I work with them daily. From what I can see, they are all very, very committed, and you've also got to understand that they do spend a lot of time. And it's trying to understand. If you want to open up democracy, right? Then you've got to open up everything else as well. And you've got to then understand that if a particular perception is being perceived in the public, then how do we make it more open so that that perception and the way people perceive that, is perceived with the facts in front of them.
Right. Okay, I've got a message coming. Is there anywhere to check which and how many meetings a particular councillor attends?
Yeah, you just write to the council and they'll give it to you.
Is it available on the website or anything?
I don't think it is. It might be. I don't know.
Seen it yet, to be honest.
But again, that information can be easily found out.
Right, okay. We've got a couple of questions from before as well that unfortunately came in. I will get back. Do send us your questions in on 07460809218. Or if you want to give the studio a call, the number is 01924505629. I promise we will get through all the questions. You did say, Shabir, at the start, the gloves are off.
I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay, I'm trying to keep the questions to. Is there anywhere we've just asked you that? Okay, does Councillor Pandor think that the Muslim community is politically active, or is there room for more engagement?
It depends what you mean by is the Muslim community politically active. But I'll try and focus on that question. I think generally speaking, I think the public isn't politically active. And the reason why I say that is because in election turnouts, some areas have 20-30%, some have more. General election, you get about 70-80% turnout. So there's a lot more people out there who actually need to be engaged politically. Be just on that day putting your ballot paper in the ballot box to vote for a particular person or a particular party. In terms of Muslim community, in Batley, I think that the Muslim community, the Gujarati and the Pakistani brothers and sisters, are more politically engaged than other areas. And that's not to say that we can become complacent and we don't need to do much more. But I think the person who asked that question, I don't know who's asked that question, and I can't have a dialogue with that person. But what I would say to him or her is if you want to get more politically active, there is a whole host of arenas that one can join. There's so many things out there. and it's just basically being educated and getting that knowledge and getting that information in how to become politically active. What I would say, obviously, as a Labour councillor, is if anybody wants to get politically active, if you go on the Labour Party website, you'll find a whole range of information, and it's very easy to become involved. By a click of a button, right, you become a member very, very quickly.
Yep. And to remain fair, you can go onto any of the party websites and find out how you can do it.
Yes.
And we do mean it. And Shabir, I have to say, one of the things that we found in this particular election, I do want to get onto a question again, so we're not going to go on too much. But one of the parties that is picking up a lot of support that we've found, I don't know if it's going to actually actually happen at the ballot box, because there is tactical voting that comes into it, is the Green Party. They are a party that are appealing to a lot of Muslims.
On the doorstep, I've not heard anybody who said we're going to vote for Greens.
Oh.
Unless they're not telling me anything, right, I've campaigned in Liversedge, I've campaigned in Hepcombe, I've campaigned in Birstall, I've campaigned in Batley East and Batley West.
See, what comes
really
across
picked
to
that
us,
message up.
Shabir, is a lot of people seem to say that what the policies that the Green Party represents are a bit like the old socialist parties' policies. They're much more socialist than the Labour Party are. And that's why I think a lot of people are attracted towards their policies. And like Mohammed said, they may not vote for them, but they're certainly sort of, veering towards them.
They've raised ears. People are listening. And I've seen, Adrian Cruden in particular, from the Dewsbury PPC. I've come across a number of people from different walks of life, from journalism all the way from a chap who works in a factory somewhere, and they've all who've been to these hustings, and they've been to a couple of these public meetings where Adrian's been there, and they have said that the Greens if I wasn't going to use tactical voting, then the Greens are the party that I would want to vote for.
Yeah, and I think I can understand why, because before the coalition government came into power, the protest vote laid with Lib Dems. They were a party that promised you everything in the world. As soon as they get into power, their flagship project, which was the tuition fees that will abolish it, they were instrumental in increasing it to £9,000. Now, and it's an issue for all parties, in terms of how do we actually engage and get our values, and how do we give people a real choice. And again, this is not a political point. This is fact. Ed Miliband, he has given that choice, and I don't think we need to turn to any fringe parties. Ed Miliband, you tell me which leader has taken on multinational energy companies?
Go on, I'll let you.
Which leader has taken on boats? Which leader has taken on Rupert Murdoch and the papers? Which leader has actually said we will reverse the tuition fees? Okay, you might not get it down to zero, but to £6,000. So there is a real choice, But these are choices, right, and these are policies, these are plans that have been put in place, which are fully costed.
Shabir, I've heard you a few times tonight talk about national politics, and we were talking about local, but just on that note, we did have a Labour government for 13 years, and did they take on Boots? Did they take on Murdoch? Murdoch was there, Boots were there. Did they take them on?
Yeah, but this is the point I'm making. Ed Miliband, he's a new leader, and he's actually completely reshaping and rethinking what Labour Party in power and in government will do.
As you mentioned,
without actually getting too much into the politics of the different parties, I think what's happened over the years, in people's mind, is the Labour Party and the Tory Party have come much more closer. The gap has closed. Since New Labour appeared, the old Labour isn't in existence anymore. Really. What Labour stood for, the ideal socialist policies, it's not there anymore, and the gap between the Tories and the Labour Party have closed. They're much more similar, and that's why I think Nigel Farage keeps saying they're all the same.
Yeah, you see, one thing that my religion teaches me is I'm neither a capitalist nor a socialist, and our religion teaches us that. Yeah. But also, my religion teaches me that when somebody is down, you got to pick them up. When somebody is hungry, you got to feed them. When somebody hasn't got a job, you got to actually find opportunity for that person. When somebody is sick, you got to look after him. Yeah. So everything that has taken place in the last 5 years, if all that is being undermined, can you imagine another 5 years? And from the messages I'm getting, I can't defend the government that was there before 2010 because we had a different leader there, different leaders. But the leader at the moment, he's sending the right signals. And the reason why it's important, because these messages and these policies will translate at a local level. Because although the Dewsbury Hospital might be an issue for the NHS, which is overseen by national government, it has a big impact because as a council we have to integrate social care, children's care, safeguarding with community care. And one of the main reasons why the NHS is failing is because the Tories, in coalition with the Lib Dems, have not been able to grasp that nettle and integrate social care. That's why you're getting these massive waiting lists, because they say, oh, go and see your GP, go and see your district nurses, go and see your local services. But if the services aren't there, that's why, we're going to put more GPs on the ground. That's why we're going to put nurses on the ground.
Just to get back onto some local politics.
We've got a few messages.
I must take them then.
They're coming in fast and furious now. Okay, this is a statement. Let's not forget it was Labour who introduced tuition fees. Labour government took us into an illegal war. Disproportionate use of stop and search powers against BME. That's a statement from a listener rather than a question. I did want to move on because this question came in a while ago. Okay, you mentioned about devolution. Will devolution actually not help local wards make decisions that affect them? Surely that's the way forward to ensure people who are affected, have a say in matters.
So what's the question?
Devolution. Surely devolution is the way forward. You criticised it earlier for the Tory government looking towards devolving.
Yeah, well, last 5 years we haven't seen much devolution. Okay. I haven't seen it because there's no policy, there's no framework, there's no structure that's come in. And only very, very recently, they started talking about the Northern Powerhouse and they released big schemes. A train going from Leeds to Manchester. You'd get to Leeds to Manchester within 20 minutes, which is really, really good. But where does that train stop? It doesn't stop in Dewsbury. It certainly doesn't stop in Batley. It doesn't even stop in Huddersfield. It goes straight to Manchester. Whereas if you look at the demographics and the way people travel to and from within each region locally, there's people that travel from Huddersfield to Manchester, Huddersfield to Leeds, Leeds to Huddersfield, Manchester to Leeds, Manchester to Huddersfield. But if you actually just connect to two major cities, then what about the mass population in between?
Okay.
So they're going to build this brand new tunnel through the Pennines. How are they going to pay for it? Where's the money? And even if they pay for it, it's not going to stop anywhere. So that's what I mean by devolution. There's no meat on the bones. Okay.
Now, you mentioned a while ago about the district committees, the local district committees. Now, this was one of the things that the council recently brought in, and the idea, or what was said early on, was that this is about devolving power. It was also mentioned that there were going to be on the district committees, members of the public as well. Why aren't there any members of the public on the district committee that serves Batley and Spain? Is it Batley and Spain?
Yeah. But we never promised that anybody that there'll be members who have got decision-making power on the district committees. Constitutionally, we can't do that because you elect a council, the councillors then have a democratic mandate under national legislation, and then them councillors then form the district committee. What we do is make sure that all the decisions that are made in public, and we do listen to the public. But as far as my years as a councillor, under whatever guise, area committee, district committee, the decisions that have been made, and you've been there at many meetings, Mohammed, right? We've never ever had any fallout.
Right. So there's no talk about members of the public actually being on the committee.
We can't do that constitutionally. It would be illegal.
Right. Okay.
It would require a change in law. And let me give you a very quick example. And again, this is locally. You will probably remember some time ago we had the housing management function that was all part and parcel of the council. Some years ago, we developed an arm's length management organisation called Kirkless Neighbourhood Housing, and the government said that if you develop an arm's length company, the tenants will be able to become voting members of that board. But the proviso was that you cannot retain that stock management in the council. You have to actually devolve that power to an ALMO. This was a Labour government policy. So we created an arm's length organisation called Kirkless Neighbourhood Housing. And on that board, there are tenants who actually have got equal rights as board members who make the decision, and the destiny of that housing company is in their hands.
Okay. Now then, sorry, are you anything to say?
Yeah, just coming back to the local councils again. In terms of, put yourself in the place of a voter. Somebody who's undecided who to vote for, and they've got quite a big choice. Particularly if you look at the East and West Ward, for instance. And they've got some, really sort of interesting candidates in those two areas, and no doubt in other areas as well. I mean, what do you think voters should be looking out for? What makes a good councillor?
I think...
And you need to take the Labour Party hat off, Shabir.
No, don't worry. I'm trying to stay as neutral as possible, but it's just that...
Old habits never die.
Yeah, but I'm a Labour councillor, so you've got to understand that. I think if I was a voter, what I would be looking at is, in terms of, if it's a sitting councillor, what I would look at is their track record, their commitment, their dedication, and how they have worked within a team within that particular group. So it could be the Labour group, Conservative group, or the Lib Dem group, because it's very important to understand that it's not an individual, especially within the realm of democracy. I mean, you're talking about party politics. It's not an individual that matters, I don't think. Obviously, as an individual, if people come to you, you have to help them. Yeah, but the big things that matter to everybody, yeah, is only done through collective power, collective bargaining, collective working. Yeah, so on the face of it, you might see that a councillor, he or she may not be effective, but in their own group, whichever group it is, they might know exactly who the shakers and movers are. They might know exactly where to pull the levers. They will know exactly who to go and talk to. And behind the scenes, they will be doing so much good work, but it doesn't come out in the open. Yeah. So this is something, right, yeah, that people will not see. The other thing I would look at is if there is any candidates in any ward in Kirkless standing, yeah, and whoever it is that's standing, yeah, if I was voting, I'd look at that person, be he or she, that have they switched parties. If somebody can afford to switch parties, then I'd say, well, where are your values? Or is it just about your personal gain? Because, and many people will know this, common knowledge, yeah, over the last few months, people have approached me saying that you should be standing independent, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. And I said, look, no. I said, I'm a Labour Party member. I never ever dreamt of becoming a councillor when I joined the party. I did it because I wanted to make a difference. I never ever dreamt of becoming a councillor in Batley West. Yeah. And I'm privileged and honoured to actually serve in that community. Yeah. And just because of my ego, if I then let go of my principles, right, yeah, for my own personal benefits, right, yeah, then I, another Muslim, again, have to look within ourselves and how will I answer?
Absolutely, I think I admire your principles there, and it says a lot about people's conscience and so on. But really, for a voter, I mean, if I was voting, I'd probably look at, because a lot of people won't know the ins and outs of how councils work. How the committees are formed, and which committees do what, and how many people have attended, how many meetings, and so on. I mean, for a normal person, they'll be looking at, if I need some help, would this councillor respond ASAP? I mean, that's what I would be looking for. If I pick the phone up and said, I need some help, is that councillor going to get back to me straight away and sort of do something about it, or going to leave it till next day, or he's out of the country, or she's out of the country?
Yep. I understand what you're saying, but it's very easy. And I don't think I'm 100% far from it. Right?
Really, I think, to be honest, Shabir, you do a really good job at that. You are a good councillor in the sense that you work hard for your constituents basically. And I've had not just I'm not just saying that to please you, but it's been reported by many people.
Yeah.
That you are a hardworking councillor. You're there for the people.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that this question is going to bring some of that out as well, because you're right, I do attend quite a few meetings and I have seen you at every single one I go to, so I can guarantee that's one place I'll meet you. The listener asks, does Councillor Pandor, not that one, okay. Right. Okay. As a councillor, what positive impact have you made to the council, the ward, the Muslim community?
As a councillor, I think the biggest impact I've made is being able to actually be a conduit between any community, and especially the Muslim community, because the Muslim community, that question is geared towards that, is to be able to understand, listen, take note, and act on their behalf. And I think that's really, really important, to actually be able to go to a councillor who is from the same background as you, because it's a lot more easy to communicate without going into a lot of details. In terms of the impact, I'll just answer that question in a slightly different way. Over the last few years, we have been in a situation where the library's been at threat. The town hall has been at threat. Yeah. The park's been at threat. The budget for highways has been at threat. But behind the scenes, myself and our local councillors, and this is the point I'm making, all the Batley councillors have worked very, very hard behind the scenes to make sure that we keep our library service operating as it is. You've got to understand, there's £80 million less. Yeah. So, and we still haven't let Batley folk or Batley town down. Yeah. Now, can you imagine if we had that £80 million in our pocket, all the roads in Batley would have been done by now. And if you look at it, we did start making a big impact on the roads. Yeah, but just when we thought, we got a rolling program here, the rug gets pulled under our feet, yeah, and we have to then start to fight for stuff that we've taken for granted for so many years. Yeah, so I think they're the biggest achievements. The other big achievement which we made, but unfortunately, again, the rug was pulled under our feet. Now, Ayub knows this, and you'll know this, Mohammed, as well, but I think Ayub more so because of his education background.
I thought you were going to say because of my age.
No, I wouldn't comment on your age.
If they only knew how close we were.
We had a Building School for the Future programme, and there was, I think about 30, 40, 50, 60, quite a lot of £1 million that were going to come in. And we consulted the community of Batley and Spen for a few years, actually. Just when we came into power in 2009, we got a plan to actually develop a brand new school at the Batley Boys and Batley Girls sites. And that was accepted by all communities, not just the Muslim community, because there were certain issues that the Muslim community wanted. There were certain issues that the white community wanted, because we are getting white children that go to Bruntcliffe. So we wanted to make sure that them kids stayed in. And we got a solution. We had a really good plan. The only thing is that we didn't sign the contracts with the DFE. The government changed and we lost that money. There was also another scheme which we were actually in the process of getting signed, which was a PFI scheme to make sure that we had a plan to invest in our roads for the next 25 to 30 years. That scheme was just about to get completed and the government changed, so we didn't sign the contracts. But one of the things we did manage to sign, and again this was the previous Labour government policy, is to develop sheltered housing schemes. Now, I'm going to get old. We're all going to get old in this room. Yeah, we know that many people, I certainly don't want to go into a home and wither and die away. I want to still be active when I'm old. Yeah, so we developed I don't know exactly what the wording was, but it was lifetime homes. So basically, when you're at that retirement age, you could actually go and live in a rented property, and have a care package, and that lifetime home would also be provide a provision whereby you could actually get family or grandkids to come and stay with you. You would have a spare bedroom. So we managed to develop, I think it's about 500-600 units. Now, 500-600 units across the council, and they're scattered all over the place.
Okay.
So we developed that, and there's quite a few in our ward as well.
Okay, now then, I want to move it on a little bit. Some of the questions, or rather, some of the discussions that people often have, particularly during Ramadan, when the whole what was happening in Gaza, and a lot of people, obviously, during the election specials, have been asking about Gaza and about what the MP would do. I want to change that. What's the council doing? I mean, we've got a lot of Muslim councillors. Okay, we've got a boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement, which was raised by the Palestinian people. As a council, we obviously is something that maybe needs or does need to be proposed. What are the Muslim councillors doing? Are they bringing that onto the agenda? Or further afield as well? Sorry, my apologies. Not just Muslim councillors. We had the Green candidate, Adrian Cruden, who's also the leader of the North Kirklees or Kirklees Greens, and he mentioned about Palestine as well. And there are 5 Green councillors in, and they are they're increasing election by election. So what's happening? Why aren't the councillors taking the BDS movement seriously?
No, BDS
boycott, divestment, and sanctions.
Yeah, well, we don't need to, because we don't buy products that are linked to Israel or companies that.
Are you sure?
Yeah, because we checked that out. Actually, there was a deputation very recently under the last Gaza conflict.
Yeah,
and the deputation came, and it was to do with a particular company. I can't
Veolia.
remember the name. Sorry?
Veolia.
Yeah. And
you don't use Veolia, that's right. But can you confidently say that the Kirklees Council do not use any Israeli linked?
Yeah, I can,
companies?
because not this.
What about Coca-Cola?
No, listen to what I'm saying. This particular, we don't have any contracts with Coca-Cola. This particular Gaza conflict, there's been others.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, right? Yeah, the Muslim community, right? Yeah, and this is why, as a Muslim, I can say this, right? Yeah, it hurts me to no end when every year, we get ourselves ratcheted up, and we'll say ban this, boycott that, boycott that. Yes, it's important, but what about the 11 months in between? Yeah, this is no joke. There are people who are not Muslims, who continuously are fighting this fight, because this is about injustice.
Yeah.
This is about humanity.
Yeah.
This isn't about Muslims versus non-Muslims. Now what we did was, I think it was about 3-4 years ago when Mahmoud became the leader. We were made aware of this straight away, and Mahmoud Khan, immediately carried out a review around the particular issue you talked about.
Okay.
And as far as we know, there are no contracts that are there that support Israel.
Right. Okay. Okay. The second part of it is the BDS movement also is about getting an awareness out there as well by bringing the BDS on, because Kirklees Council at the moment are not openly supporting the BDS movement. I appreciate what you say, that Mahmoud had a look and there was nothing that's on the boycott list that you guys have got, but by bringing this in, isn't that then a case of, well, we're not going to, even if we have the chance? Even if we could outsource to Veolia, for example, or even if we could get HP computers to replace the computers we've got. Don't you think by bringing in the boycott, divestment and sanctions, you'd be supporting the fight for a Palestine?
I think, yes, but I don't understand what you're trying to get with the question.
Making it a policy rather than just finding out that, we're not doing it. But is it a policy? Of actually sort of boycotting goods and companies that deal with Israel.
I mean, I've just got a question coming. Let me just put that on as well. The listener's asking, why have you not, as a councillor, openly publicised that you do not support Israeli products? Although essentially you have.
You see, you got to understand this, right? Yeah, as a council, we represent all the communities, and this is the point I'm making. It would be very easy for me to fly a flag and to fly a kite and to make people think, oh, look at Shabir, he's so good. He's fighting the cause. Yeah? But in my heart, I know that will not have any impact whatsoever. And I'll tell you why I believe that, right? Yeah? When I die, I might say the right things. I might fly a kite for the Muslim community. Yeah? I might be seen as the savior for Muslims or any deprived group. But in my heart, I know that the way the system works, it's not going to make no difference whatsoever. But if I do it in a different way, if I do it through collective ownership, if I do it through making people...
Yeah.
Let me make a point. If I do it through making people understand, what I don't want to do, and again, Islam wasn't propagated, right, through mass murder and war and jihad and all this. Islam was propagated through our good deeds, our manners, and the way we lived. That is what's missing. If when I die, right, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask me that when you knew how the system worked, but just to make your name famous and to actually for you to get a few more votes, right, you did these actions. But whereas you knew that if you actually did this other way, it would have actually gave you a more of an impact in terms of making sure that there was a fairer community, fairer society, justice. And this is why one of my friends told me that, Shabir, your politics don't suit you. He said, why is that? He said, you're too straightforward.
Okay. Now then, listener sent in a link to an article that's on the Friends of Al-Aqsa website. It's Leicester City Council boycotts Israeli settlement products, and is asking, can KMC do this? Boycotts. Sorry, let me just go back onto that because I've got another message coming. A couple of messages coming. Okay. Leicester City Council boycotts Israeli settlement products.
And as far as I know, we don't actually have any products that are from Israel.
Do you actually boycott them officially?
You see, it's one thing not having something, it's another thing to actually take stand.
You've got to also understand that you cannot boycott something, because otherwise you'll be sued. So how Leicester has done it and how they're actually promoting it, I don't know the details of it.
Okay.
So for example, right, if I say if I'm in business, and people out there in business will understand this, you cannot openly go and say, well, we're not going to buy from you, unless you have a very, very good reason, because otherwise you'll do for EU procurement rules. And at the moment, the name of the game is sue. Anybody says anything, you sue them. Anything you actually, outline, you sue them. That's the culture.
So has Kirkless looked into this?
We
Whether
have.
we can actually go about by boycotting them or not.
And what I'm saying to you, right, is there are ways and means. If you can, or any of your listeners has come to me and say, Councillor Pandor, these products are being used, or you are contracting with this particular company, they are supporting Israel. Can you look into it? We will look into it. But we have a very clear and open and transparent procurement process in place, and we will make sure that whatever we do will be done on a humanitarian and just basis. But at the same time, we cannot break EU or national or international legislation on procurement. You understand?
Okay, but the message was about boycotting products from the illegally occupied territories, the settlements. The co-op do, I mean, obviously, there can't be an issue around, or a legal issue, because the co-op stores do boycott illegal produce.
And this is the point I'm making. As far as I'm concerned, as far as I know, we don't have them.
Yeah, but it's one thing as far as I know, but it's another thing to actually take a stand and say, right, okay, you know what, we are going to support this cause. Because like you say, it is a humanitarian cause. And we have got, we had a gentleman called Ken Hodgson who went with EP to the West Bank, and he came back and he was, the stories that he brought back, I think you were here, you were present as well. In the Palestine special we had in the main hall. But we had him in the studio just before that, and the stories that he told us were horrifying.
So I'll certainly look into it. It's not my portfolio,
okay.
right?
So
I can't really
listeners mentioned, sent in a couple of, another message. Councils up and down the country are openly boycotting Israeli products and show solidarity towards the Palestinian cause. The Palestinian cause is not a Muslim cause. Yes, it is a humanitarian cause.
Absolutely, and that person who's sending that message is absolutely on cue, and I completely agree with him.
Yeah, that's kind of like going towards an ethical and a council that's based on principles rather than profits. Because at the end of the day, like you say, councils are tight for money. They do have to deliver these services. They might need to look at the cheaper alternative rather than principle. Is that something that could cause a problem?
What to
make a decision?
Money no, because
would ethics and value for money?
See, when you're talking about value for money, you don't just look at value for money. You look at social value, and what we are looking at as a council is social value. What social value you actually put back into the community? Yeah, and that's what Ed Miliband is trying to do. Ed Miliband isn't saying that profit is bad, but what he's saying is is there must be some social benefit. So, for example, Dewsbury Hospital, they procure multi-million pound contracts. So what he's saying is is if any company that makes money out of that, you can't make more than so much percentage, and any percentage beyond that, you got to reinvest that back in the hospital. Yep. And if they reinvest that back in the hospital, services better for me and you.
Yeah, absolutely. But we're talking about the Kirkless Council here.
No, but social value, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I know it's social value. But what about
across the spectrum?
What is Kirkless Council ethical policy? Does he have one? I'm presuming it does. I didn't mean that how it sounded.
We have a social value policy. Because all under the umbrella of volunteering and building social capacity. Social value has never been as important as it is now.
Okay. Now,
and local authorities and public sector bodies, should be a beacon of social values and ethics.
Okay. Now, one of the things we've been trying to get let our listeners know, and you're right, within our community, I think there's more politics. We're more accustomed to politics than any other community, to be honest with you. But the public can come to the council and they can have the 5 minutes deposition that they can put forward. Just go through the process. What does a member of because a lot of people kind of think, it's only for certain people, but it's not. It's open to the public.
Anybody.
How can you get a 5-minute deposition for in front of a full council meeting?
Right. Okay. I'll try and cover the whole gambit, right? Yeah, because it's not just a council meeting.
Yeah.
Because council meetings are every month.
Yeah.
Any public meeting, except for the planning committee and the licensing committee, because these are like little mini courts. A member of the public can come and have their 5-minute deputation or public question time.
Yeah.
So starting at a local level, they can do that at the district committee. So the meeting that you come to, Mohammed, right? They can do that there. Cabinet meetings take place every fortnight at 4:00 in the council chamber. So as long as you let the committee clerk know, this is cabinet meeting.
In advance,
yeah.
How much in advance?
I think it's about 7 days notice, right? But it might be shorter, but if you let them know, that I've got a deputation and I want 5 minutes, they'll give you deputation. Public question time, you don't need to give a notice. Right. You can just turn up and ask a question. But before the meeting starts, you let the committee clerk know. And with the council meeting, the full council meeting, same process.
Right.
Yeah. So anybody can come and do a deputation. So somebody might have a issue in their particular area, particular neighbourhood. They can let the committee clerk know. He'll say, yes, no worries, come at so-and-so time. They come there, they do a deputation, and then under the council constitution, the leader or the relevant cabinet portfolio holder will respond. Now, my advice to people who are giving deputations is if you can try and provide as much information to the committee clerk as possible, then the cabinet portfolio holder or the leader will be prepared. And they will be able to give you a response straight away.
Yeah.
That we've done this, we've looked at it, and this is what we're doing. But people sometimes think, no, we don't tell them. We're just going to do a deputation and
surprise them.
And okay, I understand in terms of politics why people do that. But remember, these are democratic, professional, publicly accountable bodies. Who have got a legal status. So they can't just respond on the hoof. So if you ask a surprising deputation or a question or bring something that is completely catches everybody by surprise, the response will be, thank you very much, Mr. and Mrs. X. We will get back to you. That's it. And you won't get a response.
What's the take-up like for people actually doing this?
The honest answer is, if there's an issue in my backyard, let's go and do a deputation. If there's an issue with me, let's ask a question. But in terms of the real issues, which have come out today, if we really and sincerely believed what's happening locally, nationally, internationally, the only way to actually start making that impact and get political engagement is to actually make your voice heard through the means that are there. and they're all legal means.
Do you think a lot of...
And people, I'll be honest with you, across all communities, it don't matter if it's white or black or Asian or non-Asian or Muslim or Christian or Jewish or atheist or male or female, we don't get enough.
That's what I was saying.
We only get issues, right? Yeah, if it's going to affect their area, their neighbourhood, or their street, or their personal,
What's the take-up like from, say, the BME community in terms of, coming to ask questions or deputising or
I think BME communities, right, are as bad as the white community, to be honest with you. Obviously there's not enough BME communities coming, right? But to be honest with you, the only way democracy and the level of debate and the enrichment will come about is if they are held to account more.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Because if you're getting people, right, that coming in there and they're asking about individual issues, then, it'll all be about local, but nothing like beyond their street or beyond their town or beyond their, country. And the only way you can open up democracy, open up accountability, and create a better Batley, a better Kirkless, a better Yorkshire, a better Britain, a better world, is to actually use the democratic structures.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have listeners tonight heard Councillor Shabbir Pandor say they work for you, so make them accountable. Yes? They work for you, so the councillors work for the public.
I always believe in that. And
so we should make them accountable.
To your first question, right? When elections come, I look forward to them.
Yeah. Because that's when you find out whether your ward members are pleased with you or not.
I'm not anybody all the time, and I'm sorry if I haven't been able to fulfil my role as I should be, because what I believe in is when I die, I will have to answer to my Creator. Yeah. So no matter what I say here, the truth will come out there.
Yeah, it's absolutely. That's with all of us as well, mashallah. Okay, now then, Councillor, webcams. Ever since the Kirkless Council meetings have gone online, we're seeing before that time, a lot of people didn't obviously see the council meetings, so they're not sure how they used to be conducted. But the full council meetings, in particular, are almost a resemblance of Prime Minister's questions, with some of the jousting that goes on. Is it? I mean, sometimes it looks a bit childish.
That's democracy, you get that.
Being childish.
And no, not being childish. No, having heckling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when you're there, it's very different. When you see on a webcam, it looks different. But when you're actually there physically, right? It's very different. But if the heckling gets out of hand, the mayor, whoever it is, will actually bring the house back in order. Yeah. Or bring the chamber back in order, not the house.
I really feel, I feel sorry for the mayor. I promise you, on some of the meetings that I've seen. But last question: what's the longest meeting you've had in a council?
It was a meeting in Dewsbury Town Hall. It was a cabinet meeting, and it was around the BSF.
Right.
And that went on for hours and hours and hours. I'm talking about hours, right? Yeah. And you've got to bear in mind that we've had other meetings as well before that, and that meeting went on for a few hours.
Very important issues, weren't there?
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, and I wasn't a councillor then, but they used to tell me that the council budget meetings, which are held in February, and meetings then used to start at 2, and they used to go until midnight because they couldn't agree on the budget.
So this was about building schools for the future, wasn't it?
No, this was about the budget.
The budget.
Before I was elected.
I see. Right. Okay.
Budget setting council meeting, which takes place every February, full budget is decided by the full council.
Right, yeah.
And it's called Budget Council. The meetings used to take place at 2:00, and they used to go until midnight, and probably longer.
Yeah.
The one I talked about earlier on was a cabinet meeting, which started at 4.
That was for building schools for the future.
Yeah, and that went on till 8, 9, I can't remember, but it was a long meeting.
Okay, there is a listener who sent in a comment, and we do try and read everyone's out. I think I might have missed one or two today, I'm not sure. Hopefully not. But the listener said the heckling, aka punch and duty politics, is a very big turn off for the electorate.
I completely agree.
Which is true.
Completely agree.
Well, yep, it is. Unless, of course, you actually enjoy the punch and duty politics like me.
But you see, the way I see this is, in the council chamber, you are sitting amongst fellow councillors. So everybody who's actually taking place in the debate are politicians.
Yeah.
And then you've got the opposition who try and ask you awkward questions. Some opposition members ask genuine questions, and we do answer them, as honestly and as politely as we can. Yeah, the mayor is there to keep order. The chief executive and the solicitor are there to advise the mayor in terms of what's in order and out of order. But the point I made earlier, it's a arena for politicians. Yeah, and that's what it's about. It's a political arena. So you're going to get politics. You're going to get, people making attacks, and you've got some very, very excellent councillors across all parties who are really, really experienced in debating and basically showing you up and making sure that they don't cross the line. But that's all part of democracy, because that particular councillor will be saying something. I don't know what his or her motives will be, but they're doing all that because they've got a bunch of people who are jumping on their doorstep. Yep. And this is the point I'm making. Yep. Do you want to see a punch and judy show, or do you want some real substance? Yeah, increase the level of debate. Yep. Yeah, and start making a real difference.
Yep. Right. Okay. Message coming from a listener. Oh, another message coming from Lister. Okay, the first one is the BSF issue raised one of the best local lobbying groups, Batley Parents Alliance, chaired by Hassan Badat. Another message, which is the problem is the attacks are not principled and more like attacks based on party politics. Okay, that's fine. We're going to have to draw a line on this, I'm afraid. But, Councillor, just before we finish, and for a moment, I'm going to ask you to forget that you are a member of the Labour Party. Let's be honest. We've got Batley West, Batley East, and we've got Dewsbury South, Dewsbury West, and Dewsbury, I've forgotten that, East. Between the 5 wards, for the first one, Batley, do you think there's going to be any upsets in Batley?
No.
Straightforward, is that?
No, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why.
But very quickly.
I'm the agent for Manda in Batley East.
Right.
And I developed the election strategy. And I know that work that Labour Party has done. Yeah, we've got enough votes to actually make sure that Amanda is safe and secure.
Right, okay.
Yeah. In Dewsbury West, I'm also the agent in Dewsbury West.
Dewsbury West is who's standing in Dewsbury West, right?
Darren O'Donovan.
Oh, yes, he's real.
And Darren is an excellent councillor, very hard worker, right? Yeah, and he'll get in.
Yeah.
In Dewsbury East, is it Eric Firth?
Yes.
Eric Firth, again, right? Stalwart of a person.
Yeah.
Very big man, very big heart, very nice person, very hard worker. He'll sail through. Dewsbury East, Nosheen Dad, a young girl. Dewsbury South, a young girl. Your previous caller called that we want more Asian representation. This is the first Muslim Asian councillor that's going to stand in North Kirklees.
Council candidate,
right? Yeah. This is our opportunity to get her in. She's born here, bred here, educated here. And, I'm not just saying this because I'm Labour, right? Yeah. But she will be an excellent asset for that area. In Batley West, I'm a councillor there, and I know Peter, his daughter, really well. Mariel will make an excellent councillor. So I think, we'll probably gain a seat in North Kirklees.
Do you think the national sort of circumstances might have an implication on how locals vote?
Definitely. So, and I'll be honest with you, right? Yeah, locally, when there's a national election, the local candidates' majority increases massively.
But will it correlate to the national sort of outcome?
Put it this way, I haven't got a crystal ball, so I can't foresee what happened.
Sometimes that tends to happen sometimes, isn't it?
But let me just give you an example. In 2010, when Mike Wood stood, the polls showed that we should have lost the seat. But because the Labour Party locally in Batley and Spen are very active, very geared up, knows what the issues are, and Mike was a very good MP, we actually booked the national trend and we won the seat. This time round, Joe's standing. The way Joe's been campaigning for the last 8 months, and this is no joke, it seems like she's been here for 8-9 years. And I'm sure you've all met her, right? Yeah, she's so passionate. She's got so much motivation, so much energy, so much passion, so much drive, right? Yeah, that everybody I see, including myself, right? Yeah, we just want to help her and get her to win. Yeah. So on that basis, right? Yeah, I think and remember the polls are not against us, right? We're actually ahead in the polls by 1 or 2 points. So I think that majority is actually going to increase. Yeah. So I personally feel, right, the way Jo's campaigning and the people around her, yeah, I think she'll increase the majority. I honestly do.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think we're not going to make any predictions.
No, we're not going to make predictions. Well, no, actually, on the local ones, on the local elections, I'm going to stick my neck out on this one.
Oh, really?
No, I am going to stick my neck out on this one. On 2 points. On one is Dewsbury South. I actually agree with you. I think Nosheen Dad has got a lot more exposure than who was it who stood last time against Salim? It was Nahid Arshad, yeah, from that's right,
yeah, from Huddersfield,
and she lost by about 600. There was about 650.
250 votes she lost by.
250 against Salim.
Yeah, no, which is not that much.
I thought it was more 600, to be honest with you. I'll have to have another look at that.
It wasn't that much, I know.
But it wasn't much. It wasn't much. Considering in Batley you've seen 3,000 and the person in second was about 1,000. So there'd been a big differences there. Yeah. But I do think Dewsbury South is an interesting seat.
Absolutely.
In 2012, it flared into almost a national campaign.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting ward is Dewsbury South, to be honest. So it's nice not to live there without offending anybody in Dewsbury South.
I was born there. I lived in Savile Town, right? Yeah, but I was born in Batley. But my parents moved over, then I came back to Batley, right? And it's a nice place to live, but the politics are very different.
Yes, I think to be fair, see, post the 2010 and post 2010, I think it's taken a very vicious turn. But Nosheen Dad, I think she might put up a challenge to Salim Patel, an experienced councillor who's defending his seat for I think the third time or something. Mm-hmm. But he has got a lot of following, so it's going to be a close one. Is that one? And the other thing that I'm going to say is, I think there's a lot of people who are. I know you're saying, but there's a lot of people who are talking about the Greens, and I think they're going to pick up. I don't know if they'll pick up a seat locally, but I think they're going to pick some votes up. On the council elections, more so, because I think on the general election, people are going to be looking towards tactical voting, or a lot of people are going to be, and a lot of those people who are looking towards tactical voting on the general election. Yeah. Well,
let me just go. The Batley West candidate in the Green Party, I know him personally because he was a Labour Party member. And this is the point I'm making. And he's a grown-up man. He's got family. He's a very, very, very nice person. I get on really well with Gary. But he then went to the Greens. Yeah. Now, before he moved into Batley, he used to live in Leeds, and he always wanted to be a councillor. Yeah. But then he moved here. So I hope people actually aren't switching parties because they think that the flavour of the month is Greens, tomorrow it's yellows, today it's brown.
We don't know. I mean,
but that's the point I'm making. I know Gary, right? Yeah. And.
But Shabir, and I know that there are people who have crossed from one party to another party, and it's
wrong.
Across all the parties, though. It's across all the parties.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that is wrong.
I will never do that. No, but for example, New Labour do not represent if you like, the old traditional Labour person, the working class gentleman, Dennis Skinner. New Labour really doesn't represent Dennis Skinner, to be absolutely honest with you. If a person is of that type of political mind, and they want to have a party that represents their socialist values, and they're looking at Labour, because I know what you're saying. Tony Blair, for example, we're drifting a little bit, but Tony Blair has just been wheeled out by the Labour Party to try and get support. So on one side, there are people distancing themselves from Tony Blair, and on the other side, he's getting in front of a camera to try and promote the Labour cause.
Yeah. No one person makes a party. The Labour Party is the Labour Party, right? Yeah. I'm not New Labour, I'm not Old Labour, I'm just Labour. But you've got to also understand that in any organisation, in any company, in any structure, you have to keep on reviewing where you are, where the world's going, and how the environment's changing. If you're still stuck in the ages when dinosaurs are around, then you're never going to actually move forward.
Yeah, but isn't that what's going to then change a person's possible political view as well?
But this is why I'm saying Ed Miliband, I think, has got the balance right.
Right.
He's putting social value.
Yes,
social
we know,
ethics.
but that wasn't what we were talking about. We were talking
No, but you
about
asked
a
me a
Labour
question,
candidate, a Labour Party member who's gone to the Greens. Maybe again, like I
that's
say,
wrong. That's wrong. You should fight
why?
within the party.
Why? Because someone could have voted Labour last time, but on this occasion,
we're not gonna
on this
agree on
occasion,
this,
I know
are
we're
we?
not.
We're not gonna agree on this. Let's
But
disagree.
someone could have voted Labour last time, but on this occasion, might well look at the Greens and say, you know what? I like what they
That's
stand
not a
for.
problem. It's a democracy, right? Yeah, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
That's why you're changing
But
government.
shouldn't a member of a party even have that same opportunity? That if they don't decide, if they disagree with the views of the party now,
there's no law to say they can't.
yeah,
Yeah, but what I'm saying to you, right, yeah, is when I join the Labour Party, I join the Labour Party.
for life.
Just because there's certain things that might not go my way, and usually it's a personal thing. You know, just because I didn't get this or I didn't get that.
I think we respect your views, Shabir. I said earlier that I admire that. On the principle is good. But there may be certain occasions, when your principles don't match your party's policies, and then you have to make a decision. Do I sort of sacrifice and, forego my principles, or do I stay with this party? There may be a certain instances
and
like that.
You probably know this,
Yeah.
When Tony Blair went to war, I was on the record.
A lot of people left the Labour Party.
But I actually openly
after
said, right, that it's illegal war, and it's completely wrong.
Yeah.
Now, even to do that as a Labour Party member and a councillor and a senior councillor, was what I think, right, a pretty brave thing to do. But Ed Miliband, when he came to power, immediately he apologised. So I did that many years ago before he did, but he made the right.
And
he apologised.
Yeah,
no.
but everyone's wondering if Tony Blair should be brought up against the International Criminal Court. And Labour apologised, fair enough, but in an election, close to the election, they've wheeled him out again.
Yeah. Going back to your question about Greens,
sorry.
I'm not picking that up on the doorstep. Honestly, I'm not picking that up.
I think I'm not visiting doorsteps, but I am listening to people and the message that I'm getting. Sorry, look, I'm going to read this one. So the Iraq war and Tony Blair never made you reconsider your position in the Labour Party. Never reconsidered your position in the Labour Party?
No, obviously, not just as a Muslim,
Yeah.
but as a human being.
As a human, yeah.
And there was 2 million people at least, probably more,
who voted against it. Yeah.
Who
marched
went to that
against
march.
it.
And we will know there were probably more non-muslims that were
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
That was
Absolutely.
one of the biggest marches.
So that was one of the biggest things that Tony Blair miscalculated.
Okay, but the listeners asking, did it make you reconsider your Labour membership?
There's a lot of things, that I've been through in my political life, right, where on a daily basis, we're grappling with decisions on a daily basis. You've got information coming back and forth, But one of the things I said right at the beginning, I'll say again, that it's the easy way out to actually say, okay, I'm going to pack my bags and go, and I've got nothing to do with this. That would be the easiest thing. And I'll tell you why. A lot of people did that. I can mention names, but I'm not gonna, and you'll probably know a lot of them people, But they've come back in the party. Now, what it is if I ever do, which I won't, if I ever do decide to leave the Labour Party, I'm gonna leave. I'm not gonna come back when just because I don't like something, I'm gonna go okay, everything's okay, and I'll come back in. I'll give you a typical scenario at home. I've got 3 kids, very different, right? I've got a wife, really, really supportive. We have big disagreements at home. So if I don't like my kids, I want to disown them. No, you've got to work with them and you've got to make them understand. The Labour Party is a family. And believe me, they are very good.
So why
people
don't you
in
kick Tony Blair out?
Well, we did do that indirectly. He
but
went.
you just brought him.
He went.
Not you. But the party's just wielded him. I mean, I keep using the word wielded specifically.
I don't know about that because
Haven't you seen him?
Well, not only that, Shabir,
today.
there are
and I follow Twitter and Facebook and
from
but
Facebook,
Shabir, there are parliamentary candidates.
Tabloids. I don't read
There are
tabloids.
parliamentary candidates in the Labour Party who are accepting donations from him,
Yes.
and not very far away from here.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I haven't accepted any donations from. I don't think our candidate in Batley and Spen has.
No, I don't believe the Batley and Spen has. But
I don't know.
Not too far away.
I'm only working on Joe's campaign, right? Yeah, because Joe's, sort of like asked me to help her out, and I'm really.
But you see, Shabir, the point is, on one side we hear Labour candidates trying to distance themselves from what Tony Blair did. Like you said, Ed Miliband apologised for going for what Tony Blair did and everything else. And the next thing you got PPCs who are taking money from Tony Blair, and you've got Tony Blair himself wheeled it out in front of the cameras, and it was a camera shoot, and it was on the TV and the rest of it. Wheeled it out in front of the cameras, urging people to vote for the same Labour who apparently have said, he's a dodgy fella.
No, I hear what you're saying, but I'm working on Joe's campaign. Yeah, and as far as Joe's campaign is going, right, yeah,
she's been very good with that on that point, on that issue. We did question her on that point here, and she came out very openly and said, she wouldn't even shake hands with Tony Blair. And I think she's doing the right thing.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to close it. I've got messages coming in left, right, and centre.
Go on, guys. Read the messages.
We will
read the messages.
Are you sure?
I think we should.
Now, I have to point out that tonight was not about having a go at Councillor Shabbir Pandor.
I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it.
I've enjoyed it.
This is the kind of
not
stuff
having
I
a go
enjoy.
at you.
No. This is the kind of stuff I enjoy, because this is about.
No, I think it's been good for our listeners.
It's about. It's about engagement more than anything else, and that's. But and we do make a rule of reading as many messages as we can. So okay, this one says, so your allegiance to the Labour Party is greater than the suffering suffered by the Iraq people. I think that's unfair. I'm going to answer on your behalf that one. I think that's unfair. As Councillor Pandor has already mentioned, he did publicly say that he did not agree with the Iraq war. And he
I said illegal war.
Sorry, illegal war. And he actually called it an illegal war. So that's a little bit unfair. But fair enough, the listeners got their views. And I get my hand slapped every so often as well, mashallah. Okay, you know what? I am going to call it a night on that. I think. Oh, sorry. I've just there's a couple that I think very quickly, inshallah ta'ala. There was one that came in a bit earlier, which was regarding the issue of Councillor Pandor, please answer the question. We'd already moved on, unfortunately, but what difference can an MP make on a decision taken by councillors at the local level? I'm going to ask you a very, very straight question on this one. The library, for example, is one thing. Can an MP, we're not talking about party, we're not talking about central government decisions, a single MP, can a single MP save, for example, the library that is inevitable, that is going to be facing cuts?
Yeah, I think I can't answer what might happen in the future, but I think an MP fighting for local services is always good, because the MP isn't part of the council, although that MP might be with that particular political party, so he or she can actually scrutinise our decisions the way the councils might not be able to scrutinise them. Yeah, and especially, right, yeah, and in this case, it's a Labour administration, and let's say you've got a Labour MP who's scrutinising our decisions. And I think that's good for democracy, because, if we are actually getting questions and being scrutinised about why, how, what, all the questions that might seem obvious, yeah, then that only makes us make the right decision.
Right.
Yeah, and that then opens up a lot more avenues for other people to actually have a say, because the more people that are involved in the decision-making process, the easier it is to actually implement or not implement that decision. Right. So MP is critical in this, I think.
Okay, we've got a final message that's come in. I'm going to close it on this though. Councillor Pandor, you've just helped me make my mind as to who to vote for. I'll be voting the Green Party. That's a statement, not a question, so we'll leave it at that. Okay, now then, but you can make your decisions for yourself, inshallah ta'ala, by attending the Batley and Spen hustings organised here by the IMWS. That's going to be taking place this Sunday. Now, we've got confirmation. Jo Cox from Labour, she's going to be here. Imtiaz Amin from the Conservatives is going to be present as well. We've got Alex Lukic from UKIP. He's already confirmed. John Lawson from the Lib Dems, he's confirmed. The Green candidate, sadly, will not be able to make it because he's actually working at the hospital. He's a doctor, but we have offered for him to send in.
About the voters, so the voters come first.
We have asked him to send.
Patients dying. Think about that.
Well,
Yeah.
unfortunately,
Not at this very hospital, I
yeah,
don't think.
but we have asked him to send a statement in, and he did actually. He was actually going to come in if we'd gone a bit later or continued a bit later. So we might well see him a bit later on, inshallah. But however, we will be seeing the Green candidate, Dr. Ian Bullock, in the studio next week from inshallah ta'ala around about will be 8:30 again. So we'll be seeing him in the studio from 8:30. So you will have an opportunity to find out what he does stand for and what he feels. You'll be able to ask those questions that you've been asking of everyone. You haven't even let Councillor Pandor off the hook this evening. Mashallah.
I could just ask another question.
Go on then.
Are you ready for this?
Oh dear.
Look, having lived and worked in Kirkless over many years, I've come across many great councillors, of great stature and ability and conscience and determination, passion, what have you. I mean, who are the great councillors for you over the time that you've worked in Kirkless?
You asked that question at 10:20.
No, we're just beginning, aren't we?
To be honest with you, you probably know more councillors because you being a little bit older than me.
Little bit,
and
just a little bit.
And the way you work with them, you'll have probably seen different sides of being councillors. I only see them in the council chamber, and even with my own colleagues. And to be honest with you, there's been very little movement since I've been a councillor. Okay, councillors get deselected, new councillors come on board, councillors pass away. But, John Harmon, people say he was a very good councillor, right? Yeah, I used to be on the Labour group, but I didn't really get to know him. Yeah, since I've been a councillor, there's not been that much movement, But Mike Wood, again, people say he was an excellent councillor. These are the people that come into my mind. Mike was a very good speaker in the council chamber. Who else was there, right? Yeah. Razak might not have been a very influential councillor. Well, he was influential. He might not have been a loud councillor in the council chamber. I mean, loud in, it's like, with question marks. But he was a very influential councillor, and he was a very good shaker and mover in terms of the work he did in his own community. Yeah. And people have just got to go and see what he's done.
That's where they stand out, really. The best councillors have left a legacy for the community. They've left something behind.
Yeah.
George
Speight,
absolutely. And he's one councillor that stands out amongst others. I've had many occasions where I've worked very closely with him. And he's actually represented our community really well. And I know the late, George Speight. I mean, I can remember a story about him. There was a meeting in Dewsbury, in Savile Town, of all places, following one of the disturbances in the 80s there.
Right.
And we had a meeting between the police and the community there, and George was chairing that meeting. And during the meeting, one so-called Mr. Patel stood up, and he spoke for about 5 minutes in his pidgin English, which I couldn't understand a word of. I don't think anybody in the audience understood what he said. After he finished, he sat down. George stood up, and he said, "I absolutely agree with Mr. Patel, with everything he said."
Oh my goodness!
There's something about that guy. That shows that he was actually a people's person.
Well, this building here, IMWS.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for George, the deal wouldn't have been made.
I think that's what council has been to me, really. They should be the people who should be back in their community all the time.
And this is the point I was making.
Something like Ghulam Mania, for instance.
Ghulam Mania, again,
he's been an excellent sort of councillor for the community because he's done things in his own way, not in the best way, but in his own way that has benefited the community. Especially, the funeral services, for instance. The things that he actually made happen. And it's those kind of things that, councillors leave a legacy behind. Okay, sorry, Mohammed.
Okay, listeners, I'm just going to turn the mics off and let the two elderly gentlemen go into a corner and talk about their favourite council. It's like swapping all football cards, but let's not start with that. Last week, I did say, just one more time, remember the hustings here at the Al Hikmah Centre this coming Sunday from 6 p.m. And last week, Ayubai, I did mention that there is a former colleague, not a too distant former colleague, who is standing as a council candidate.
Right, you did mention that.
I did
yes.
mention that. And I did say I would reveal all this week.
Okay, go on then. Let's have it.
It's a gentleman who used to work in the office until a few months ago.
Is he standing in Halifax?
No, he's standing in Huddersfield, in
Right,
Greenhead.
okay. What's his name?
Zahid Mahmood.
Oh, Zahid, yes. I saw his name somewhere, actually, and I wondered if it was him.
He's standing...
Newsom?
Shall we base miming which
Newsom.
party?
Is it Newsom?
No, he's standing in Greenhead.
Greenhead, right.
What's happened is Mehboob Khan obviously has taken a
Right,
position
okay.
down south. So there's 2 council positions that are available in the ward. And he's standing for the Conservative Party there.
Interesting.
He's standing as a Tory.
Very
there.
interesting.
It's very
I wonder
interesting.
what his father-in-law might think.
Who's his father-in-law?
It's,
If I can.
I think so.
If I can.
Yeah.
Who's F.A. Khan?
If I can, is a stalwart in Huddersfield. A very strong.
I'm sure he's
stalwart.
related to F.A. Khan.
Oh, subhanallah, mashallah. Right, okay. Listeners, you heard
Question
it
mark,
first.
I'll have to find out for
right,
sure, really.
Yeah. Listeners, you heard it first here on Radio IMWS.
But could I thank Shabir on behalf of
Yes,
Radio IMWS?
absolutely.
Shabir, thank you very much for your
No,
time.
thank you very much
We've
for
not
inviting
had
me.
a break. We've been through from 8:30 till
No,
nearly
time's flown.
half
Actually,
10.
I couldn't
And
go
you've
for
been
another hour.
brilliant. I think it's been one of the best interviews that we've had
Yes,
in
we
the
have.
radio.
Final thing.
And also, I think, I must say this, I wish you were standing as an MP somewhere. You
Well,
would make a really good
Vote for Joe and
parliamentarian.
Herwin will be my win.
But
right, yeah.
inshallah, I think your time will come.
Yeah, just one final thing. When Joe came here, I spoke to her afterwards, right? Yeah, and one thing I did, without even hesitating, she said, "Shabir, it was really, really good, really positive." And time flew, and I could have spoke for another hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not joking. She will be right for our community. I've seen her, and I've known a lot of people, right? Yeah, and she will be the right person when she be an MP. You've met her as well, you.
Met on many occasions, yes.
I'm sure
We
you
will,
can make a
we
comment,
will,
but,
we
you know,
will have all
yeah,
the results,
should-
inshallah. May the 8th, we will know. May the
should be
7th, we'll be going to the polls. Remember, you will be voting for an MP and you will be voting for a council. It's your chance to make a difference. Remember, politics is not for the people, it's for you. And the disappointing, as Shabir mentioned earlier as well, the disappointing factor is that normal council elections, there's usually a turnout locally, which is actually quite a good turnout, and that's less than 50%, more closer to 42, 43% around that within the Batley area, around 46 in 2012, I think. 46% in Dewsbury South was the highest in the area. So that's a little bit disappointing. We want more people to go out there and vote. It's your chance to have your voice heard. And remember, inshallah ta'ala, election times, it goes up to about 67%. So I don't know how many Greens are going to turn up, but we'll see. Anyway, we will be, inshallah ta'ala, continuing with the election special next week when we will have in the studio Dr. Ian Bullock, who is the Green Party PPC for Batley and Spen. Coming up on Sunday, as well as the hustings at 6 p.m, we do have Kids Zone from 1:30, inshallah ta'ala, to 3:30. Make sure you tune in for that. On Tuesday, we will have the Islam program. Wednesday will be Gujarati. Thursday will be the current affairs. Friday, we will be back with the election special. Ayuba, you want to come in?
Yeah, just saying the hustings will be broadcast live on radio.
Yes, we will have the hustings live through Radio IMWS, but we do urge everybody, and alhamdulillah, I'm very pleased to say from the wider, from all parts of the community, there's been a lot of interest in this hustings. We're expecting a lot of people, inshallah ta'ala, but we won't be taking questions for the hustings on Radio IMWS. You can listen to it, but if you want to ask a question, you will have to come to the Al Hikmah Centre on 28 Track Road, Batley, WF177AA. That's it for us, gentlemen.
Yeah, Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah. And from all of us here to all of you out there, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Online and on your home receiver, you're listening to Radio IMWS. Join the women-only over 50s elderly lunch club every Monday from 12 p.m. till 3 p.m. at the Al Hikmah Centre. Enjoy a meal in the company of friends as well as gentle exercise routines, including the use of treadmills and exercise bikes. That's the over 50s elderly lunch club every Monday from 12 p.m. till 3 p.m. at the Al Hikmah Centre on 28 Track Road, Batley, WF177AA. For more information, call 01924 500 555. Reach your customers through our radio, magazines and website with competitive rates. Advertising on radio IMWS, Pegam, An-Nisa and the IMWS website could give your business the boost it deserves. For more details, email info@imws.org.uk or call 01924 500 555. It is related by Sayyidina Anas radiyallahu anhu that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, when a man marries, he has completed half of his religion, so let him fear Allah regarding the remaining half. The Al-Hikmah Nikah service launched by the IMWS aims to introduce prospective marriage partners to help fulfill this important aspect of faith. The service is open to unmarried Muslims who are permanent residents of the UK. For more information, visit our website at www.imws.org.uk.
Radio IMWS.